Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The Spa and Spa Life, the SPA, is for Seek Power Always, that power within you to do your deeper work in the world. I am so thrilled to have a dear friend and special guest on the show today. Maya Comerota is a visionary entrepreneur and and human potential pioneer. And I want to say that because this is leading edge, right? A visionary entrepreneur and human potential pioneer with a mission to unlock human potential and make seemingly impossible dreams come true. From building a multi-billion, and that's with a B, billion-dollar initiatives to leading international teams in Fortune 100 biotech companies to helping hundreds of thousands of patients with lifelong autoimmune disease transform their lives to a life of health and wellness. Maya is an expert at personal innovation and health transformation. Maya, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. Thank you, Diane.
Well, I am just excited to just jump in here because you have supported over 1.5 million people worldwide to live a life they love living and transform their dreams into reality. No small feat. I mean, that sounds like a wishy-washy thing. Like, I'm waiting for you to pull out your wand and just, grant all these dreams to come true. And you recently initiated or launched two initiatives, Born for This and Living Legendary, which have been designed to support people to remember and reclaim their magnificence. So I would love for you to share, what's it mean to live legendary and how do you reclaim your magnificence?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. And this is what I love to talk about. So, I believe that each one of us is here for a reason. And
amen.
And we're meant to fulfill that. And if we're not fulfilling that, then we're going to be unhappy and we're going to be unfulfilled. And so it really, I had this experience many years ago as a corporate executive leading hundreds and serving hundreds of thousands. At this time, this was many years ago, that, I wasn't fulfilled in my own life and I didn't know why. And I wonder if you felt this way or others have felt this way, where you're looking at your life from the outside looking in. And that's how I felt. And I realized, although I was helping all of these people, something was missing in my own life. And I had to start to reclaim that. I had to start to understand, who am I and who was I born to be? And so I had a whole journey around that, and maybe we'll get to that later. But, Born for This and Living Legendary are my programs to help people to understand why you were put here on earth. What is your reason for being here? Because if you're not living that, you're going to be unfulfilled. It's going to create disease and illness. It can create disease and illness in your body, which I've experienced in, the hundreds of thousands of people that I served in biotech. And once they were more aligned with who they were born to be and their vision for the future and their vision for what they wanted to create in their life, all of a sudden their dreams started coming true. Their bodies started to heal. And so Living Legendary and Born for This are my programs to help people live their biggest dreams, tap into the power and the potential that exists inside of each one of them, in each one of us, so that we can live the lives we were born to live and the lives we love living.
I love that distinction in that, because I think there's something in all of us that we believe that we're here for something bigger. Like there's nothing like our own thumbprint about why we're here and what that looks like. And when you're in alignment, you start having, improved health, your relationships, your exuberance for life, like all of those things start happening. And there's something about the journey in getting there. And when you have these discovering aha moments, and, you, Maya, you've had multiple certifications from the world's leaders, anywhere from personalized health, high performance, autoimmune, and human potential. How have you really just harnessed all of this knowledge and used it as a platform of transformation into your knowing? Like, it's become like, what is that next thing for you to do this work for not only yourself, but for people in the world?
Yeah, I think what you're sharing is so powerful about the knowing. And so everything that I do, one, is based on my own life experience. So I say all the time, our life is our curriculum. And so I use my life as my curriculum to support me, not only to serve myself, but to serve others. And so often, we have these situations where, we wish that they would not happen to us, like a troubling situation, a stressful situation, things I'm sure each one of us has gone through that you're like, I wish none of this was happening to me. And the way that I experience this is this: if I can figure out how this is a gift for me, how life is living through me in this moment, then I can not only help myself, but I can help others. And I do that through my own experience. So when I find the gift in it for myself, I'm able to then teach it for others. And it is from a place of knowing. And I believe that for all of us, that is the most powerful work that we can do, is that experience and creating that experience within us. So all of my programs are actually experiential, where I allow people to, it's an evocative approach where I allow people to evoke within them through evocative questioning, through experiences, to have their own experience so that they can come to their own knowing. Because when you know, and you can, then you're in your power, when you're in your knowing, when there's no doubt, right? And so to continue to create those experiences where we create that knowing, that confidence, that conviction, that's what this work is all about.
Right. And what was that for you? Like, what happened when you got to that moment where you're like, I have to change?
Yes, such a great question. It was about 6 years ago, and I was corporate executive at this time. For all intents and purposes, outside looking in, looked like the most amazing life. And, multiple homes and beautiful family. I had a 3-year-old son, and it's this beautiful summer Sunday afternoon. And I'm in my office working, and I can hear my son downstairs, and he's playing and he's laughing and he's giggling. And all I want to do is go downstairs and play with him, but I don't know how. And I'm such a playful, adventurous person, but over time I had lost it. And I wondered if he even would want to play with me, if he would have more fun with the nanny. And so, as I'm sitting there in my office working and listening to him giggling and playing, all of me just wanted to escape. And I'm thinking, like, there's got to be more to life than this. Like, there's got to be more. There's this little voice inside of me. And so I see something that I needed to return out of the corner of my eye. So I grab it and I run downstairs, and I tell Hunter, I'll be right back. And he says, Mommy, take me with you, with his big brown eyes and like beautiful hands outstretched. And I said, not this time, little guy, but I'll be back in an hour. So I jump in the car, and 20 minutes later, I'm in front of a red light. And I wonder, how did I get here? Because I don't even remember driving the last 20 minutes. And as I turn the wheel to get onto the on-ramp, this huge black SUV crashes into the side of the Toyota Tundra, exactly where my son would have been sitting. And just like that, the car is spinning, everything's in slow motion. I see the SUV fly through the air, through the green sign, down the embankment just a second before oncoming traffic. And I'm praying to God, please God, don't let that person die. Don't let there be a child in that car. And then I see a vision, and it's my husband and my son and my family, and everybody's sad. And I can feel this like sense of regret. And I wonder, if this is my funeral, did I do what I came here to do? And I knew the answer.
Yeah.
And so minutes later, the police arrive, and the other woman and I were embracing, and they say, how did you get out of there? And I look at her car and I look at mine, and both of them are completely totaled. I don't know how we survived that day, but that day, everything changed. And that was the day that I stopped doing everything and started being the person. That was the day that I recognized that I was meant for more, and that something needed to change.
Yes. Yes. I love your story. And one of the things that I think is so powerful about it is, we think about like how would life be different? And someday I'll do this. But when you're confronted by a moment that just wakes you up and has you look at, you've literally been given a second chance to shift and change what that is. And, we talk about what are some of those disempowering moments. And you've shared with me when you were doing your corporate work, of course you were helping people and you were making impact and those things were happening. But there was this angst within you that you wanted to get out of that, to do something different, to be with your family, to go to that next level of who you were to be. in that moment when you're there, that can be the most frightening time, because there's some reliability in, your income and your lifestyle, and things all look great and pretty and sparkly on the outside. And I know that there's some of our listeners who are in that place where they feel trapped in their trappings, right, of what they've built from themselves. And so how, being in that moment, do you step away from that? And tell us about the journey of how you start walking away from what is known, what is predictable, what is safe, into this next life.
Yeah, such a beautiful question. And, I feel privileged in one way to have had the experience that I had, where I was confronted with this. And yet at the same time, if I didn't have that experience, I would do it a little bit differently. I burned the boats, and within 6 months had left my career and found my wings on the way down. I typically support people to start with the end in mind, right? So right now, if life were to be over, if you had 2 hours to live or a day to live, what would you want to make sure you would have done and said? What wisdom do you want to share with the world? And knowing that we don't necessarily know that we have tomorrow, but we have this moment, then start there. Start with the knowing of, what would I feel regret in my life if I have not done yet? If I have not done this thing yet, what would cause me regret or sorrow for not having shared? And then from that space, there's two things. One is I start there. I start with the end of, like, at the end of your life, what do you want that to be? What do you want to make sure you would have said or shared? What wisdom? And then starting to dream. What do you desire? What do you most desire in your life? And start to build that sense of deserving within yourself for our own dreams. Because so often we shame and blame ourselves for, like, I know myself in my corporate career, I felt like I should be happy. I should be happy. I should be content. I should not want more. And yet something inside of me was yearning for something more. And so those are the two things that I would say is really reflect on. At the end of the day, what do you want to make sure you would have done or said? And then start dreaming and allow that to build within yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Well, then let's just come to that within yourself. Like, how would you answer that? Like, if you had a couple hours left to live, what would you want to make sure that the world knew?
Yeah, two things. One is that to live your boldest life, that you are here, you are magnificent by design. That there is nobody like you in the world. There hasn't been somebody like you in the past, and there will never be someone like you in the future. So you are here for a unique reason. And it's our purpose to find that out. Each one of us has this unique opportunity to discover that magnificence within us. So that's number one, is that we're magnificent. And number two is to identify what that magnificence is, what that big dream is for each one of us, and be her or him right now. Don't wait. Don't wait to be that person. We all have dreams of, when this happens, when this dream occurs, then everything will be great. Then I'll be this kind of person. Well, be her now, be him now. And by doing that, we create that reality for ourselves.
Yes. I love the word magnificence. I mean, it has such vitality and energy to it. And it can be a scary word. It can feel like it's too big to live up to. And so how do you move through the hurdles of being that big, of being magnificent? And what would you say is your magnificence?
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you. So great question. I often get this question, isn't magnificence egoic? Like, isn't that big, could that be more from an ego standpoint? Magnificence is, like, when you think about who we are and where we are we are on Earth, in the galaxy. Like, there's so much magnificence to this world. And yet there's something about magnificence that is actually humbling, because in order to live into the magnificence of who you are, it's never been done before. And when you are magnificent and everybody else is, I think that's the point. That everyone is magnificent in their own unique way. Like, we each have a DNA fingerprint that nobody else has. So that's truth. That's fact. It's science. And so there's something so humbling, because to live into that magnificence, it's a journey. And you actually have to let go of roles and titles. And it was probably some of my most humbling work to be the woman that I am today, because I had to let go of all the roles and the titles and the accolades and all the things to actually be the woman that I am. And now being the woman that I am feels, it feels normal and natural. And it doesn't feel like this big thing because I'm showing up as the woman that I'm born to be.
Yes. When I think of magnificence, I think of nature. Like Mother Nature is magnificence, right? You think of thunder and lightning and sunshine and everything. And it's like, you don't say that a rose is more magnificent than a tulip, right? They're magnificent in and of themselves. And so when you can, I love the reflection of just nature, because everything in it is powerful. Like everything works together and it's all part of it. And so when you were speaking of this is what I was envisioning of, like, a sunset and just a major oak tree and just like all the things that are so reflective in our space when we actually can put ourselves as part of that magnificence and wonder and greatness. It's like, it just reminds me of this. How dare us not be that?
Yes, exactly.
Now, I love that. And, there can be fear, right? There can be fear that can come up in that journey. And I love how you talk about befriending fear. And you also have a process called AIM that you utilize to help yourself move through that. I think it's helpful, particularly for entrepreneurs, to know that fear is part of the journey. Like, if you don't have a day that you're waking up and you're not fearful, then you're not just doing it big enough, because there's just something fearful. In fact, you and I have joked several times about that feeling of fear before you go live, I'm going on 5 years of doing my show. And every time I hit that record button, it's like, and you were just on this major, beautiful stage with Tony Robbins, right? And it's just like, I don't feel like there's ever a time where you're like, I got this, no problem, it's all good, even though you do, and you come into yourself with it. But there's something about taking that first step into it that can be just trembling until you actually do it. So I would love to tell you how you just talk a little bit about this befriending fear.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So, fear to me is the precipice of the next level. And when you understand that this is showing me that I'm going outside my comfort zone, which means that I'm growing, which means that I am becoming the person that I'm meant to be. So this fear is the precipice. So when you understand that, you can celebrate it and you can befriend it and say, oh yes, this is that next level for me. And so, and then there's tools to support you in navigating, like to support ourselves in navigating that, where, there's something that I call AIM, and it's awareness. So we're aware of the fear, whatever that is, aware of the story, and then interrupt. So we interrupt the pattern of the fear. And then there's, the best way to change our state and to change anything is to move with our physiology and also to like use sound. And so I have you either do a moving mantra, right? So you move your body, you become really powerful, and you exclaim something. Typically for me, it's the opposite of what I'm thinking. So an example is anytime we all have stories, like the story that runs in our mind. And typically I've got like 5 that are standard. And one for me is, when things get hard, it's what's the point, right? What is the point of doing all this when there's judgment, when you fail, when all these things, right? Whatever that is, because we're all going to experience those experiences in coming into ourselves. And when what's the point comes up for me, then I am aware that this is my story and my paradigm, and that's the fear that is the precipice of my next level. And then I interrupt it by either breathing or moving my body in a powerful way. And then I change the story to the opposite. For me, this is exactly the point. Like, this moment is the point for you, Maya, because this is your next level. And when you get through this is also, not only are you teaching for yourself, you're teaching for others. And oftentimes for me specifically, and probably for a lot of people, we do things more for other people than for ourselves. And that's definitely the case for me. So when I find purpose in, if I can take myself through this, I can help other people. And so it gives it even more even more power for me that like, it's not just for you, Maya. You've got to share this work with the world. And so that helps me a lot.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. And, it's so important to just kind of like look at that fear. And it's almost like you think of fear of almost like this 3D thing, and you can look at it from different vantage points and go, okay, what is fear telling me? Or what can I do about this? Or why is this showing up for me? And invariably it's a tool that we're supposed to use to help other people, to help ourselves, and to be in that space. So I really do love this, just kind of this relationship of, are we going to be fear? Or are we going to have some fierceness? And how are we going to look at things? And it's just so helpful to see, okay, wait a minute. I love the deep breaths. I think people really forget about how the deep breaths just give you clarity. It really just allows you to be present. And anytime you move, think about this. A lot of times I'll tell people, move a piece of furniture in your home, because moving one thing in your space changes everything. It's like the butterfly effect, right? It's like changing one thing always has some effect. And so when we move something in ourself, in our body, in our environment, we have to have a different outlook. We have to have something that looks differently, and we can be really conscious in how we create things. And I know there's certain things for you, how you consciously create your life. And I'd love for you to share just some of those highlights for us.
Yeah. So many. I think I love to make things really simple, and I sort of shared a little bit about this. One is I start with the end in mind. What is my dream? What is my intention? What do I most desire? And so with the question that I asked before of like, what would I regret if I didn't do today? And so I start with this, and then I consciously know, if this is my dream, how am I going to create this? And what is my next step? My best next step from where I am, what is the very best next step? And I'm very conscious. I'd say the framework that I use for consciously creating my life is intention, attention, and action. So what's my intention? What's my dream? What do I most desire? Where am I placing my attention? And because where you place your attention that's where you focus, that's where your feelings are, that's how you're going to take action, that's your behaviors. And so where am I placing my attention? And then what are my next action steps? And so those are the three things that I really, to make it super simple, I focus on all the time.
Yes. Well, talking about like intention, I believe that our environment really impacts how we live and what things look like. So one of the things I love to ask my guests on the show is, we experience life different in the bedroom versus the kitchen versus our office. So what is your favorite room in your home, and why? So I love this room because you can see my beautiful chair and my flower, and I've got my books and I love what I do, and I get to be the person, like, this is my space. I've got plants and flowers and a beautiful chair, and I get to be fully me. And so I would say this room, and then also my bedroom, is a really beautiful space where, I get to read with my husband, and, my son jumps in bed with us, and it's really beautiful. And we've got this big bed, and we just get to cuddle. And so those spaces are most beautiful. They make me feel at home. Yes. I love it. So let's talk about you standing fully in your power. Like, what does it look like for you to consciously create your dream? Because when you talk about a dream, it's different. Like, there's different energy with like a goal or an intention versus a dream. And, there's a lot of people, first of all, talk a little bit about your choice of dream, because for some people, they talk about dream as it's a pipe dream, right? There's nothing tangible about it. It's this airy-fairy thing. Talk about how you look at a dream, how it propels you forward, and how do you consciously create your dream? Yeah, such a great question. And I love this because dream can be so vague, as you mentioned. Right. And dream-ish, it's just a dream. Right. What I believe and what I know, and I'll say it's what I know and experience, viscerally in my body, is, as I mentioned before, we're each here for a reason. Mm-hmm. I'm on this planet for a reason. You're on this planet for a reason. Everyone that's listening is here for a reason. And how would we know what that reason is? It would show up as a desire. It would show up as a dream.
Like something, if I see myself, for example, I saw myself on stage with Tony Robbins a long time ago. It wasn't, it wasn't this thing that didn't feel possible at the time. It actually felt like it could be possible. Mm-hmm. And I've got even bigger dreams, but it was this feeling and this image that I got in my mind. So for anybody who's listening, it's like, what are those images that come to you of these things that would bring you so much life? Like if this were to happen in my life, I would be so excited. It would bring me so much life. And typically we shame and blame those things like, that's not going to happen. That would never happen for me. When actually there is a life force that is the reason that we're here. Like you and I being here right now is a miracle. Like it is a miracle that you're here, that I'm here, that each listener is here, right? And so the way that we know how we're meant to express is that these images will come to us. These dreams will come. And we are they're meant to express through us. So if we know like this would bring me so much energy and so much life, and we put our attention on it, if that's where we put our attention, and we've all heard energy flows where our attention goes, right? And everything is energy. So if we place our attention on the things that bring us life, there is something so powerful that is supporting us, because we are meant to accomplish those dreams. But that is the life force that wants to express through us. And I think so often we don't give that enough attention. We downplay.
Yes. Well, and I think what's so powerful about this is I think if somebody doesn't get like the full step-by-step 10 process of this is my dream and this is where I go and what it looks like, it's like they feel like their dream's not showing up. And I think what's really important is that your dream may trickle in bits and parts. You may see the end of the dream, you may see the middle of the dream, you may see the pre-dream, right? And so it's important to see that each one of those dreams, each one of those insights, and this is where, meditation and prayer are so important, because when we ask, like, please show me, right? Let me see, God, why am I here? What am I doing? And sometimes those dreams can actually start showing up in adversity, right? When some things start showing up. And this is why, in this new season, new episode, I was really focusing on being a force for good, because we all have that, right? We all are that, but how are we showing up for that? And, speaking of fear and dreams, I shared with you, and it's a little bit intimidating for me to actually say this in the show, but I want to put this out here as a dream, is that I am really passionate about saving and protecting the children. I'm an abolitionist with the Underground Railroad for saving the children. And I think it's a very important awareness and mission to have. And I didn't always want to be part of that because it is a dark story, right? About children being, taken and being enslaved and sex slavery and all of those things. And it would give me almost flashbacks of when I worked undercover in prostitution and looking like, do I want to have this in my life? And this is where some of this comes full circle, because it was at Tony Robbins' 60th birthday party that he actually had Tim Ballard, who is, the founder, spoke there and talked about how, if these things can happen to the children, then we can actually listen to them and do something about it. And, there was this catalyst that a part of the dream that started building in with me between Tony mentioning that and being a force for good, and Tim Ballard talking about helping the children, where now it's something that there's always people coming to me talking about this. How can I support them? I'm actually looking to help with our police department again to really make a dent in that. And that was nothing I was really looking at a year, 2 years from now, but that's been planted within me, that's now growing to be able to do that. And it is one of my dreams to actually have Tim Ballard here on the show to really talk about that with the children and be a force for good. So I'm setting that intention, that dream out there. I have no idea, how I'm going to connect with him, how I'm going to meet him, what that's going to look like. But I know that I'm here to be a force for good, to help the children. And that dream was a seed that has been building and growing. It wasn't, all in full bloom and the whole garden was there. And I even to this day don't know exactly what it's all going to look like, but I'm open to the dream. I'm open to it unfolding. And I know the parts that I can step into that allows me to do that. And so I would love for you, Maya, to share, particularly because you work with so many people around, looking at their dream and building that. what are you sharing with people that maybe don't have the whole dream in front of them right now? They know it's something is stirring, but where do they go to grow it?
Yeah, I love this. And you actually spoke to some of it, which I think is amazing because, how I speak about dreams is, like I mentioned, there's something inside of you that desires to express and be known to the world. That's our magnificence. And how would we know that, right? How would we know what that is? It's one through those images and those dreams, and the other is actually through discontent. And when we're discontent with something, when something is painful or sad, or we think about the children that are being trafficked and realize like, there, no way, not on my watch, right? Like this is not okay. And there's a passion, there's an energy inside of you, whether it's a pain or a suffering or something. So these two, they're like our guardrails for our magnificence is our dreams and our discontent. And when we know what we're discontent with, I ask people to answer the question, what is the solution to that discontent? Like, who would I need to be to solve this problem? And it might be getting involved with Underground Railroad. Maybe that's it. And I similarly have a passion around this as well, right? And, I have a mentor and a coach also, Mary Morrissey, who's really beautiful. And she asked the question, what would I love? And that's a really great question. In any situation in your life, what would I love? And when you answer the question, what would I love? Specifically, I would say the majority of people that I talk to, when they don't know what their dream is, they know what they don't want. Yes. And they know what they don't want because there's some discontent, there's some pain, there's some suffering that's attached to that. So if you know what you don't want, you can ask yourself the question, what would I love? In this situation, what would I love? And then to, come to what we were talking about before, who would I need to be for this to be true? Who would I need to be? And then see the image of who you are in that moment. Like I can see yourself helping these children, right? I see it too. I feel it in my body. I feel how I can help these children. I don't know how. Yes. I don't know how. I don't know I don't know all the steps. But I do know that when this is happening, this is how I feel in my body. This is how I'm talking. This is how I'm walking. And then I choose to be that person in this moment. And I just identify what's the best next step. What can I do right now? That's it. What's one step? Because that one step is part of the process. And it's just one step after another, after another. We don't like I have the people that I work with celebrate when you know these things, celebrate, and also celebrate the becoming, the fact that you are coming into this understanding. If you knew all the answers right now, that would be a goal. That would be a goal. That's not a dream. That's not necessarily your magnificence. And you start to become in awe and wonder of who you are when you realize that you didn't know the whole path. And all of a sudden, the path starts becoming illuminated to you step by step by step.
Yes. Well, and I also think too, like if we actually knew all of the steps up front, I think it would maybe be too intimidating or so big that you're like, I can't even imagine stepping into this because it's so mind blowing, because there's so many twists and turns that can happen that we cannot anticipate. We have no idea. And one of my favorite quotes is by Clement Watt, which is take the first step. No more, no less, and the next step will be revealed. We can't start with the next step. We have to start with the first step. And when we do that, then different things, we've bent around a corner. We've like been able to kind of peek over and see what's going on to then give us more information to take that next step. So I love that part about just, stepping forward and letting the dream breathe, right? Let the dream just like start to unfold and happen. And it's interesting because as I've stepped more into this allowing space to just like, to not feel like I have to know everything. There was definitely a past version of myself where I wanted to know every step and I wanted to have the full picture and here's all the things there. And I just noticed that was actually a form of sabotage, and it doesn't mean that we don't plan and we don't have things on our calendar. We don't have systems and structure because those are very important and they play a role, but they don't overshadow the dream of what comes up. And this is why we want to leave space in our life to let these things that pop up that, if you had so tightly a picture and a web and a goal set apart, when you were asked on a very, last minute situation to show up to speak on Tony Robbins' stage, you wouldn't have had the room for it, right? So you allowed space for the dream. You allowed space to make things happen, to allow things to happen because you created that dream space. So I love what you've created. I love just the magnificence of who you are, the energy of who you are. And I know that our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you. How can they do that, Maya?
So the best way is on my website, or they can see me on social media. So mayacomerota.com is my website. And then they can also find me on social media on Instagram at Maya Comerota or Facebook, Maya Comerota. So
perfect. I love that so much. And we'll have all those links too in the show notes so people can do that. And so one final question is, Maya, how are you being a force for good in the world?
Love this question. I help people to discover who they truly are, to remember. I really love the word remember who they truly are, and to allow that to come through them. Because when we truly remember who we are, there's more peace, there's more ease, there's more joy, there's more bliss. And we recognize that we are one with everyone. And we recognize our magnificence and the magnificence in others. So that's how pain and suffering and all of these things start to go away when we truly remember and reclaim who we are.
So beautiful. I adore you. I thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your magnificence with us.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor.
And to our listeners, just thank you so much for being here. And I would love for you today to just take that moment to really see what is your magnificence. What is that within yourself? And, notice, are you kind of leaning into it or are you kind of pushing back? And just really, if you re-listen to this again, if you didn't take notes during this, I hope you just go back and look at that. And if you have any questions, please make sure to put that in the comments and to tag both Maya and myself. We're happy to answer any questions that you have, and be part of this positive community. Part of how you can be a force for good is sharing this. We hope you've done, our 5-star reviews, and you've put in any comments and that you subscribe to the show, because we want to make sure that this gets out to as many people as possible, because starting with messages like this, these are the seeds that grow into positivity that really have far-reaching effects. So I just want to thank you for your time, for being here. And until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Mwah.